Welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast with me, Sean Anderson, the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media. This is the show where I bring to you stories from recruitment owners, investors, suppliers, innovators around the world who are prepared to give up some of their time to move our industry into a more of a modern mindset, to talk about the latest trends, the things that are happening, the ways in which brands are growing recruitment companies in 2021 like never before. So far this season, we've had some really interesting guests, and today is no different. I'm really excited to be joined by Andy Shatwell, the Managing Director of Charlton Morris. This is a recruitment agency headquartered in Leeds in the north of England of about 60 recruiters across medical, life sciences, and industrial recruitment. I came across Andy having looked at the company brand. We didn't know each other. We've been connected for a while, and we spoke recently because I was just so excited by what I saw online. Like the content these guys produce felt more like a media publishing business than a recruitment company. And I was like, wow, is this really a recruitment company? So we had a quick chat, and I thought it'd be an amazing chat to find out how and why he's done what he's done. So Andy, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
No problem, mate. No problem. Look, I've given you a brief introduction there, but do us a favor, give us a better overview of you, yourself, and the business Charlton Morris.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're right. We've been connected on LinkedIn for quite some time, but we've never actually been in touch or spoken, even though we kind of very well aligned in kind of our attitude towards recruitment. It hasn't always been like this for us. It's been a work in progress over the last probably the last 5 years or so. But I suppose to take you back to the beginning, we set up in September 2013, so about 7.5 years ago. We broke away.
Who's we?
There was about 8 of us that broke away from our old company, our previous company, and we were at the time. I was heading up the medical device division of another business, and we, with the blessing of the previous company, kind of set up and did that and took the team with us and they kind of invested in us initially. Yeah, it was a really good setup and kind of quite risk-free from my point of view.
How many people? Is it just you?
There was about 8.
One business partner, or
we started out with me plus 2 others, and then we had a group of consultants that were all relatively new, kind of graduate consultants at the time. So there was probably about 8 or 9 of us. I always forget exactly how many, but 8 or 9 of us. But what we did have is obviously we had that amazing kind of team spirit, that kind of us against the world. We're a startup, and we're going to, work harder than anyone else, and we're going to be better than anyone else, and we're going to just, smash it. And we did. And our first year was a success, and it allowed us to kind of keep investing in the business. And, we, of that original 8 or 9 now, I think there's still 4 or 5 of us that are still here with the business and are still, actually now directors in the business. So,
where did you come up with the name Charlton Morris? What's that?
Charlton is, everyone does this, don't they, with the 2 surnames or the 2 kind of like I read someone had put on like how to name a recruitment company is like 2 middle class surnames put together, but they're definitely not necessarily middle class. But Morris, Charlton is my wife's maiden name, and Morris is my mum's maiden name. So it's literally as simple as that. With time, I call it CM now, and we kind of all call it CM. But obviously, to the outer world, Charlton Morris has got quite a lot of brand equity.
Yeah. And none of the other people at the beginning wanted their own names chipped in.
I suppose I was the managing director at the time, and it was kind of my, not necessarily my thing, because I certainly couldn't have done it without them. But the opportunity was kind of offered to me to do this, and those guys were reporting to me at the time, and it was just kind of, I don't know, just kind of what, I suppose when it was offered to me, it was almost like, pick a name kind of thing. So, but it worked quite well. And like I say, it's kind of loses its, there's probably a lot of people who work for me today or us today that don't know that, that they don't really know where it's come from. But yeah, that's it. So there was 8 or 9 of us. We actually, it was probably a very good time in 2013 because LinkedIn was kind of becoming the tool of choice.
Yeah.
And probably for the first couple of years, we almost, at the sacrifice of a database as a CRM, we basically just invested in LinkedIn. So we made sure that everyone had their LinkedIn licenses, everyone had job slots for themselves, not shared, that we had our own kind of recruiter page, and that we were kind of starting to build a bit of a follower. We were just talking before we went live about kind of the traffic that, investing in LinkedIn and getting job slots and having a lot of kind of activity around applying for jobs on LinkedIn. A lot of traffic goes to your page, and obviously then you start seeing the kind of the followers grow. So we could almost kind of see that happening, and we were like investing more in that and kind of really get into grips with LinkedIn. But basically at the time we were a very new, very young, enthusiastic company that only had this LinkedIn tool, which is kind of started the journey of kind of where we're still on today, is that we went all in on that rather than signing up for a database, rather than kind of trying to build out anything more.
So you had no CRM at all, just LinkedIn?
No, definitely not. And then probably after 3 or 4 years, we played around with a couple of more short-term, like, no contract type ones, just because we were thinking, well, we need to get something. But, we almost saw LinkedIn as our database.
So what did you do around deals? Did you just write them on boards rather than?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, Excel and write them on the board.
Yeah.
Totally. And to be perfectly honest, we've gone through a couple of big transformations over the last 7 years, and the most recent one has been our full adoption of Bullhorn. So we signed up to Bullhorn after about 3 or 4 years, but we didn't really use it. We put deals through it, but we didn't use it. And then kind of as the company progressed, we wanted to get more out of that. We knew we had to get more out of it if we wanted to grow the business and to learn more about the insights and the data that we were going to get from that. So we signed up to Cube 19.
Yeah.
Well, Cube 19 is an amazing tool, but only if the input into Bullhorn is also like good quality.
Yeah, makes you do the right thing.
So we literally, we know we're going quite far on now, but we literally at that point of signing up to Cube 19 and committing to it, we basically went from like about maybe 5% adoption to Bullhorn to like 95%, because we just didn't give people an option. We took the boards down off the walls. We kind of had a month of like integration, but then after that, it was the boards are off the walls. And if it isn't in Bullhorn, it's a bit of a cliche, but if it isn't in the database, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
If you want to go and board a fee, it's got to be in Bullhorn. It's got to be accurate. If you want your commission paid on the back of that, then you just got to use it. And we just went totally cold turkey on it and just did it.
Good.
But obviously, what that kind of got us was great insight from Cube 19. Almost like as soon as Cube 19 went live, we were getting like amazing data back from it. And to date, we still do that.
Andy, let me just stop a sec. So let's go back a bit. So you had say 8 people. Quite an interesting start, because you didn't have the classic have to build to hire people. You had like some investment.
We had a good.
You all knew each other. Like, what was the growth in year one? Like, what were the figures you hit? How would you describe the first year? Is it starting in the way that you did?
Yeah, we like wrote $1 million in our first year, between like 8, probably between, as we hired a couple of people, maybe between 10 of us, which isn't like great. It isn't amazing numbers, but kind of from a bit of a standing start, and obviously just kind of getting anything on the board, and it almost like just becoming as successful in year one was like a big deal for us.
Yeah.
And to date, we're turning over about hopefully across a couple of different projects we've got going on, about 10 million.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives you some kind of scale on, well, some sort of idea about the growth that we've had over like 7 years.
And that's all perm, isn't it? That's not.
It's all perm. Until very recently, it was all organic growth. It was all graduate-based hiring. We exclusively hired grads for about 5 years, but as much as we knew we could get a grad in, get them trained and get them billing and get them credible in their market and writing fees, what we ended up having is quite a bottom-heavy environment where we had managers, but they were young managers who also wanted to bill, and we weren't immature in the crudest sense, but if you looked at our business from the outside, you'd see us as quite an immature business. I'm only been doing the job for say 15 years, and I'm the most experienced person in our business. And everyone else has come through from grad and learned from me, or learned from my managers who have learned from their managers. Yeah. So we were a bit bottom heavy. So we did go on a bit of a drive about 2 or 3 years ago to start kind of bringing some experienced people in from recruitment and outside of recruitment, but just to give us a bit better balance.
Yeah. All right. So you've done an amazing growth plan in year one. You've written £1 million. What was the headcount trajectory like over the first 5 years to go from starting with 8? How did each year go in terms of headcount? Because that's something that people are always interested in.
Yeah, I mean, since year one, we've always been hiring. Like probably up until April last year, like our kind of like mindset is we're always hiring. Like we're always taking on grads, and with grads, it's kind of cyclical with the summer graduates coming out of uni, starting from like earlier in the year, then kind of like having a bigger intake in the year, but then kind of picking up a few throughout the rest of the year. So I mean, off the top of my head, maybe we finished the first year on maybe 13 or 14, and then the following year on 20. I think after 5 years, we were up to about 50. And like I said, all grads, coming in with no experience and just trained on the job by our managers or by me and our managers. And that was after about 5 years. And people always used to say, and it's funny, like people always used to say, like, God, how have you gone to like 50? I was like, that's really easy. Like, we've just been in good markets, and we've just had we started with a good group of people who were like still with us and were willing to share their time, and they were all really invested in our business. So going from 0 to 50 or 9 to 50 I felt really it just happened. It was just easy because, the culture was great. The team was, like I said, good markets. And it felt really good. I always thought that, and I've spoken to a couple of other leaders in the business about this, but from going from 50 to 100, like the same growth, but to the next level, I always thought, and obviously I'm now experiencing, was going to always be our biggest challenge, because you kind of got to be a company at that point with some structure in place.
You've also you're not got to grow by 50. You've got to keep the 50 as well to grow.
Yeah,
the 50.
Absolutely.
Depending on your attrition rate, that could be hiring however many people. I remember when I was at Venquist, we went from, I think it was 7 or 8 to about 52 when I was there, across multiple teams. And we found that, just breaking out of the 40 mark was we stayed around 35 to 40 for ages. We just really struggled with that. I don't know where they are now. I think they're about 70 now, but we really struggled. And it was just one in, one out almost, the mindset. It's difficult.
And I can see that, and we have experienced that to a degree. We've always kind of finished the year with a kind of a net kind of increase in headcount, and we have grown year on year. Even in the last year, we've grown in terms of headcount. But obviously, it's not to the hiring 10 or 15 people and just getting them to stay. Obviously the culture early doors. We've worked extremely hard to keep our culture, or to even kind of create a better culture as we've grown, to work on retention. I think a lot of the big keys to our success over the years, I'd say retention is one of our biggest wins. And obviously we have attrition like anyone else in the industry, but we've got. I was just making some notes before. We've got 40% of our businesses got more than 2 years experience. We've got 25% of our business who got more than 5 years, not experience, like tenure in our company. So that's kind of enabled us to create a strong management team, which has enabled us to invest in them and to kind of get them up to scratch to kind of then keep hiring. So it's, and the things that we've always been conscious of is that, when we were 20 or 30, I felt like I knew everybody in the company, and that we'd all have barbecues together, and we'd all hang out together, and we'd all drink together. And obviously now it's just impossible. Like, I'm 15 years older, like I've got a family. So I become more disconnected, which means you have to put the emphasis on the teams below to kind of keep that connection and keep that culture, which it's been successful, but obviously it's just not as easy as it was.
It's a really good point you've made there, because I think the graduate hiring model, the gap between the graduates and the CEO or MD just gets bigger every year, doesn't it?
Totally.
So you really need to promote people at the right age, so that they are then filling that gap, so that there's someone above who everyone can look up to all the way to the top. Rather than being a big gap in the middle. Yeah,
totally. I mean, I'm still relatively young. I turned 37 in 4 weeks, but I'm not 20, and I've got 3 kids. And going out for a drink on a Friday just nowadays just isn't an option really, unless we're celebrating anything. So I can't work personally to keep that graduate engaged with us and really bought into who we are and what we're doing. So it's really good or great that we've got a management team below us who are kind of 29, 30 who are still have a bit more freedom and flexibility to do that. And then now a team of managers below them who are, that we're all committed to the cause and we're all kind of bought into the values of the business and stuff.
Makes sense. Yeah, you're definitely not. You're looking. You kept the hair dark, unlike my grey hair. That's
I've had a shave for the first time today in about a year. Yeah,
slick. So I'm just trying to. I want to get onto the more modern stuff soon. But the bit that I'm interested in for you is like there's a lot of people listening to this episode that do not have 50, 60, 70 man businesses. Right? They really struggle to get beyond 10. Like the industry is capped at 10. In terms of 81% of sub 10 staff. So why do you think that is? Why do you think people struggle to get beyond 10, 20 up to the 40, 50? What's the reason, would you imagine?
That's a really good question. And honestly, I find that so hard because like I said, when people would say, God, you got to 50 in like 5 years. And I was like, it's been easy, like genuinely like been easy. We've not even really broken a sweat. And not to sound arrogant in any ways, that's really not the case. I just never saw that as like a massive achievement. Just because it was, like I said, good markets, graduate based, organic. And, we've always still today, we've got 70, 71 in the business today, but I could still see easily the next 15 or 20 hires in the business because industrial, it's, multi-billion-dollar market. We're writing, 3 million in it. Like, obviously there's so much scope to really like get even involved in that area, never mind like medical and life sciences and everything that's going on there. So, there's still opportunities to grow, but so the markets are there. So for us, we've got good markets, and we can see.
What about your behaviour? What about? I reckon in the first few years, I'm just going to make. I don't know the answer to this because we've never asked, but I imagine you stepped off the tools quite quick.
Yeah, after a year or so, I didn't write much in my first year, to be honest, because I was. So there. We've got a great culture of like giving business away. Like managers are really invested in their consultants and at their own personal financial sacrifice that they would do that to give someone one of their employees a payday or to get what you get from doing that and the buy-in that you get and the loyalty and trust and everything that you kind of do from actually saying like what, I'm not going to take the commission for that, you can have it. That I was doing that in the first year, and then in the second year I don't think I probably even wrote a fee.
So that's the bit. That's the ingredient, I think, that you don't even realize, right? But you stepped up as the managing director in year one and then built people. Whereas most of the companies I know that struggle to get beyond 10, the owner's still billing aggressively.
And can't take a fear of taking away, a fear of downing the tools, because if they didn't do it, then how would they hit?
Exactly, yeah. Whereas you came into the business with a team that you'd probably already stepped a bit away from anyway, billing. So it was like sideward step, carry on. Whereas a lot of people go on their own, they build fees, they then have to hire someone, they've got to keep billing they've got to train at the same time, and it's just a complete merry-go-round.
Yeah, totally. And it's a really good point. And I've never even really thought about that at all. But, I think the retention of people, if that 10 people, is that the same 10 people, or is that, like you say, is it 1 in, 1 out, or 2 in, 2 out, or every time you feel like you're getting somewhere, you lose 2 or 3 people. Our retention for the first 2 or 3 years was extreme. Like seriously, like people just didn't leave because we were doing so well and everyone was making money. And even for the first few years, we never lost anyone to another recruitment company. We still don't lose other employees to another recruitment company. It would be because they've had enough. They've had enough of recruitment, or they're relocating. But even still, like if they're relocating nowadays, we're versatile enough to keep them working for us. So, like we just don't lose people to other companies. So that's a big thing, definitely. So when we are hiring, it's like net growth in headcount. So it's not like we need to hire 10 to increase growth by 2 or 3 at the end of the year. If we hire 10, we'll probably increase growth by 8 or 9. And that was just our trajectory over the first few years. Was that was kind of if you joined, we kind of made it work. Yeah. We got you working, and then you kind of stuck because of that.
So how did this whole vision around content becoming part of? Because I imagine, just again a hunch, you weren't thinking about that when you started 7 years ago. I don't think anyone was in our sector back then.
No,
I remember a year after I came to London to join Venquis, you started. So I can picture the summer of 2013 very, very well, right? It's my first I think I was just starting to get commission. I think I went to Hvar in Croatia in the August with my mates. And it was the first time I'd done a year of contract recruitment. As you know, in contract, it starts to drip feed. And by the time the summer came, I was earning good money. So I've got fond memories of the time you started. But there was no chat of personal brand, content marketing, podcasting, none of that. So when did you start? How did this all start to evolve in Charlton Morris to think content might be important here?
So I suppose firstly, our big investment as a business was into LinkedIn. And it was on the premise that we used it and we used it well and we got the most out of it. It was, it was a big investment for a startup business. If we weren't billing the money at the end of the year, then we wouldn't have been able to justify keeping the tools that we had. So we had to make it work. So, and like I said earlier, with the job slots and stuff, we were starting to see this kind of like traffic go into our page and our follower base increasing like crazy, increasing like 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people, which then kind of like worked as a motivator to keep using it and to keep driving that traffic. So then we're starting to play around. So actually Chris Holland, who's our marketing director, who I know a lot of the other marketing people who are maybe listening into this will probably know of Chris and some of the amazing work that he does, because people quite rightly are asking him to appear on panels and to talk and to be guests on podcasts and stuff. Chris, so I'm trying to think which way it ended up going. So it actually started by us getting a call out of the blue from LinkedIn. And this is genuinely where it all started. We get an email from LinkedIn out of the blue saying, congratulations, you made our most socially engaged list. I don't know if you remember that. It was something they did for 2 or 3 years and then they canned it. Probably for good reason, because the metrics weren't like, no one knew the metrics. So like a company on there with a disproportionate amount of followers or whatever who weren't really doing much content or engagement, but they were ranking quite high. But that didn't matter to us at the time. We got an email to say that we were like the 5th most socially engaged small company in EMEA on LinkedIn. And we were like, wow, like what the hell, where has that come from? Like totally took us out came out of the blue and took us by surprise. And we were like, oh, obviously we want to go up that list. Classic kind of like recruiter sales mindset. It's like, well, if we were 5th this year and we've not even worked at it, we could be 1st next year. So how do we develop our kind of like our LinkedIn game to start kind of going through the gears and become number 1 next year? And that's what we did. We sat back and thought about it. And we thought, right, well, we reshare a lot of content, and a lot of companies do now. And that's kind of, you see when people think, well, I'm engaged on LinkedIn, you're resharing other people's stuff, or you're posting an advert from a publication. You're posting an article from a publication, or you're just commentating on what's going on, or you're resharing. And we were like, right, so we do that anyway. Let's maybe start thinking about writing our own stuff. And obviously the first thing we came to was like, okay, so what do people want to hear from us? What's our authority? Where do we sit in the market? Right, we're a recruitment company. Let's write articles about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, how to like dress for an interview, how to do a video interview, stuff like that. And we were getting like really crap like engagement on it, because let's face it, there's like 1,000 articles out there already on exactly the same topic, all going around and doing the things, doing the circuit. And it's, it was like quite good. I mean, it was good. We were being quite brave by putting it out there, but the zero engagement. So they, that kind of developed into kind of us thinking like, what is our voice? How do we get engagement from content? And our audiences, so our typical recruiter might have a couple of thousand connections. Like none of them are in recruitment, really. None of them are really interested in us talking about recruitment. How do we add value to our network? This kind of all happened at the same time as Chris, who was a recruiter for us, was starting to kind of get a bit fed up of writing fees, and he had a real flair for content writing, and he was kind of doing a lot of our early content anyway, and he was quite keen to move into that and start doing it. So that was a bit of a risk. It was like our very first person that we put in a role that wasn't a 360 recruiter. I mean, Chris's writing skills is great anyway. It's amazing. And something that might take me an hour just to write the first line, he would write a whole article, in 20 minutes. So, but it started out by thinking, right, so let's talk about what we know, right? So what our audience wants to hear, who are the exciting companies? Just quite simple titles. Who are the 5 best companies in medtech right now? Future. How do we see 2015 or 2017 in industrial. And just out of nowhere, we just started getting like the odd comment on there saying, oh, top 5 companies, like, where are we? Where's my company? Like, we should be in the top 5. And we were like, whoa, hang on. Like, we've got someone like in our market who is someone who like we would maybe class as a potential hiring manager, like commenting on our thing saying like, why aren't we on that list? And then we were like, okay, well, why do you think you should be on that list? And before you knew it, with that, it kind of developed over the course of a year into us having 400 likes and 100 comments and discussions going on between, say, 2 hiring managers on our feed or on our comment section on LinkedIn. And we were like, this is like gold, really, because it just gives us a reason to develop a conversation that we wouldn't ordinarily have. It gives us a point of discussion next time we contact them. That then potentially turned into, so if you think you should be in there, then why don't we write an article together as to why? So then the strategy kind of developed into more collaborating with clients on content, and we still do that now. And it's just kind of like picked up pace. And we did actually go up that list. So we went to like second, and we were pissed off we weren't second. So we were like, how do we make it to first? And we'd gone up from the small category to a medium-sized company, but we were still second in the medium-sized group. And that kind of spurred us on. And then the year after, they ditched the whole thing because the metrics weren't right. And we were actually doing the right things, but there were other companies in the top 5 who just had a load of followers and had a lot of traffic. And obviously in the whole time we're doing this, we're investing more. We've got more recruiter licenses. We've got more job slots. We're getting more followers. And like to date, we've got like nearly 250,000 followers. But, a lot of them are vanity followers that, like we were talking about earlier, that they apply for a job, they become a follower straight away, even if they're not relevant to the company. We've really looked at them and thought, how can we engage those followers? How can we get the most out of those followers? And that's kind of where it is. And and then to date, we were getting so much content engagement on LinkedIn. Our content was getting better and better as a result.
Did you question it at the beginning? Did you question, like, is this worth spending money on?
I suppose I've always been, and we as a business have always been like, let's do it. Let's just do it. Like, we've been successful in our revenue. It always allowed us a bit of the opportunity to take risks. We've been really fortunate. Even in year 1, we were never in a position where we can't really afford to do that. We can't afford to buy a LinkedIn license for everyone. We could, and we did. We can't afford to hire someone just doing marketing. Well, we could. I mean, obviously it comes off the bottom line. It means that we don't, but we could afford it, and we could do it. And we believe in the principle. So we've always been very lucky. And I know a lot of companies out there probably could afford it, but still wouldn't do it. And I suppose we've always had the mindset of like, why not? We'll try it, and if it doesn't work, then we'll pull it. But thankfully, like, most things have worked. Not everything, of course, not everything, but most things have worked, which has meant that we can just keep investing in it.
I'm interrupting this episode of the RAG podcast to bring you a message from our sponsor, Odro. You know by now that Odro are the #1 video interview platform for recruiters around the world. Now, they keep bringing out new features, from Odro Capture to Odro Producer, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. But now, recently, they've just announced a new feature to the platform, which is a complete game changer. During COVID-19, they realized that the recruitment audience, the communication was changing. Globally, their clients and candidates were using Microsoft Teams and Zoom more than anything else. The phrase, let's jump on a Zoom call or jump on a Teams call, has actually replaced the words video interview for a lot of their conversations over the last 6 months. Now, they were thinking, how are we going to eradicate this? How are we going to make Odro the name that everyone talks about for the interview process? And they realized they didn't need to. They needed to integrate. So for the first time ever, they're the first video interview platform on the planet that have decided and managed to integrate with Zoom and soon to be integrated with Microsoft Teams. So with one click, after recording a Zoom video, you can now drag that into Odro and create everything else that Odro has, from adding the CV, the heat maps, the capture, and the producer elements. You get all the benefits of Odro before and after the interview, but you get to use Zoom, which is client-friendly on all levels. So this is massive. Teams is coming.
It's the first time anyone's ever done it in our sector, and it is literally going to change the way you work in 2021. Get in touch with my friends over at Odro at odro.co.uk, or if you're already a user, reach out to your account manager to make sure you've got this feature. Back to the show.
I think one of the things I've been talking about recently is the timeframes around what you expect from marketing, right? As we record this, my 2-year anniversary of this podcast was a couple of weeks ago. We've interviewed over 150 people, right? And at the beginning, I couldn't see that. I could only see one episode a week, interviewing great people, offering good value. I didn't know we'd get to 20,000 monthly listeners, and I'd be getting listeners all over the world and messages every day, and interviewing some amazing clients. We've worked with probably 80% of the guests that have been on in some capacity, like generated revenue. Yep. It's been incredible. But I read this thing the other day. It's like, if you look at your business like an investor looks at stocks, you can predict further ahead, you'll be a hell of a lot better business person than if you just track the daily trades all the time. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you need to know your numbers, but if you're thinking, I'm investing in this because I think in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, it's going to pay off, in 5 years. Did you have that when it came to marketing? Did you think long term?
No. And we've been really guilty as a business, and I suppose ultimately lies with me that I'm a very in the moment kind of person. I'm not a planner. I'm not personality type wise. I'm not someone who sits and wants to draw out a business plan over the next 5 years and how we're going to achieve it and all the little metrics we have to achieve to do. And to be honest, to my own detriment, because I know that as these are the things I'm talking about, going from 50 to 100, and actually kind of trying to build a vision out for the business that people want to buy in long term, rather than it just being, oh well, this is fun, this is cool, and it's all happening and we're doing really well, which is kind of what took us to where we got to maybe a couple of years ago. But no, when we started in marketing, there was no plan. There was nothing, there was no metrics. There was no metrics for Chris. Chris is desperate for metrics because he wants to smash them. He wants to show, us hit the return on investment on what he's doing and what now his team are doing for us as a business. And obviously, I want to give him the tools, or we want to give him the tools to allow him to show that, because that is a real big thing for us as a business now to continue the investment in it. And when I say investment, I don't mean financial investment. I mean commitment from consultants to say, right, this is the value of working in this way. If we can show that and case study that and actually show it right through to revenue, then we can kind of use that to, everything's changed now. With the business, how it looks in the last year, which I'm sure we'll get onto, is totally different to what it was before, which was I've got good engagement. So if you've got good engagement on a post, that might start a couple of conversations, which might lead to a vacancy. And that's kind of all we thought about it, is that I'm now speaking to a CEO that, I've tried to contact for 5 years and he's just commented on my post. That's a win. And that's an ROI. Obviously it might not even go anywhere, but we just saw them as wins.
But the bit that I'm saying about the investor, Andy, is that they're the things you don't see at the start. And, if you think to yourself, this social post has to make me money, you're fucked. It's just too short term.
Yeah, totally.
If you think, if I invest in these, like you do in recruitment, you think, if I invest in this many calls, this many CVs out, this many vacancies every month for a year, I know it's going to get better and better. And content's the same. You do not know the value of the brand you've even built yet, because next year, when this market bounces back and it gets even more buoyant, the brand you've got, I'm confident, is going to it's going to stand out against others that have treated for the last year.
Totally. And we know that. We are really, really confident on that. I know a lot of people, and we saw a lot of marketing recruiters who were getting let go last year, and we weren't. We doubled down. We were we're not letting anyone go. And actually, we've just hired someone else in marketing who's joining us soon. And our content, the volume of content that we created, went up.
Yeah.
The amount of videos, we moved into podcasts. We were doing videos anyway, but we're doing more of them now. Podcasts is new for us. We've done webinars. We're really doubling down on our marketing effort, because, we, like you say, when things do bounce back, we're going to be so far ahead of. I don't like to look at it as competition, because I'm not judging us against our competition, but I feel like we're ahead of a lot of our competition anyway, or a lot of our kind of worthy rivals in the business. and we're already ahead of them anyway by maybe a couple of years, but now we're maybe 10 years ahead, because then they'll be starting from scratch again, hiring those marketing people back again in April, May this year, and had a full year out of it and starting from scratch.
Every day people avoid this and just say, no, I'm just going to keep doing what I've always done. The people like your teams that are investing, you're getting a bigger growth every day in terms of your followers, your brand equity. And I imagine you're still making the calls and doing the things you did anyway. It's not like you stopped doing that. You just do it way.
Totally. And nothing changes. Everyone is, like you say, the output from everyone is still the same. And that's been something probably really important to us over this journey, is that we've seen this marketing-led stuff, which has grown beyond, the demand for our consultants to get marketing and to get articles, podcasts, and done from our marketing team is like crazy at the moment. But they all see it as, I'm doing this in addition to what I'm doing. We got the buy-in from the ground up, and that's obviously one of the other issues that I know a lot of business leaders will struggle with. Like, we started a business with this sort of mindset, so actually building on that was really quite easy because everyone believed in where we were going and what we were doing. If I said to today, right, we're hiring 3 people in marketing, and I want an article out of everybody, or some form of like content from everybody in the business once a quarter, I'd probably get told to do one, and I'd get it, because I would probably do the same if I was a recruiter. I'd be like, no, I ain't got time for that. Whereas, like, we've been built in, and it's kind of been slowly ingrained in what we're doing, and actually everyone just sees it as there is a big return on investment and a big kind of engagement piece in what we're doing. And so the buy-in's there, and it is in addition to the BD, in addition to everything else that kind of comes with it. So we've never sacrificed that.
So let's get to where we chatted a bit before, right? So you're sat in a beautiful office behind you right now. It's a gorgeously kitted out space in Leeds with the scope to grow. Tell us the story. So going into COVID-19, you were about to walk into your new office, right?
Yeah. So this is like a mega milestone for our business, and a kind of almost like a reward for the staff, and the employees, and everyone who's kind of, we've been working to this office like forever. We've had nice office. Our last office was really cool too, but we outgrew that, and this was our big thing, our big move. And we were supposed to move in April last year, and obviously we never made it. Like we left our last office when we went into lockdown, like 20th of March or whatever, and that was like, we've never been back to that office because the lease was running out the following month. Obviously, we didn't know that at the time. We were kind of like, give it a few weeks and maybe we'll come back and get all of our personal belongings and stuff. But it was people had to go back in over at some point to get their stuff. And this was like this is a mega milestone for our business, and it was taking us to that next level. There was room for growth, and it was like, it was the worst at the time. It was like, what have we done? Obviously, initially the financial outlay that we had for this was based on projections, and us hitting a number this year and everything like that. So firstly, we were like, we've just emptied our bank, needlessly, on kitting this place out at like a mega high spec, and not only that, to as a kicker, people are working from home now, and nobody wants to go back into the office, and everyone's talking about the death of the office, and we've just signed up to a 10-year lease in an office that we've just spent the best part of £500,000 kitting out, and it was supposed to be our hub and our base and our headquarters and everything for like I said, for the next 10 years. So we were just like, just to add another kind of stress on to what we were all going through last year, was that this was going on in the background, and we just didn't even know if, what we were going to get out of it.
How did you cope with that? How did you
just make the biggest mistake ever? It was really hard. Obviously at the time it was like, you didn't know what to worry about the most, or not to, what to stress out about the most. And obviously, to be honest, at the time, it was about just writing fees. And it was about kind of getting through the period and saving costs and getting through that time. And I suppose that kind of took a lot of the emphasis away from this. This was like this would have been at very best a bit of security with a bit more money in the bank. But, as it worked out and as it's turned out, it couldn't have gone any better, because for all those reasons that I just said, when we returned to the office in July, we returned to this place and we didn't return to our old office. And our old office, like I said, was pretty cool. But I know a lot of recruiters don't work in cool offices. And then returning in June, July time back to that office where they couldn't space out, or they had to put, screens between desks and stuff. We had the space and we had a place where people wanted to come back to and were like actually genuinely excited to come back to. So for one, the timing actually couldn't have worked out any better. And for two, it isn't the death of the office. I think it will change. Totally, it will change. And you see a lot of stuff out there about this. But, I think there's an expectancy from employees to get more from their office space, that they're not willing to accept a shitty office space anymore where they're cramped in and sat, all cramped into an office and they don't have the room to do anything. This area here where I'm sat is in our breakout space, where we've got, this is designed for people to pick up the laptop and come around and work in here like a cafe, and it to kind of mimic like a work cafe style thing where, there's music in here, but you can put your earphones in and you can just come and get some quiet right space around here. So what it also has ended up happening is, I think what we're going to have a major win is that it hasn't actually happened yet, because when people are returning to the office or being asked to return to the office or considering what office they want to return to, we again have probably like gone far beyond like anything that maybe our competitors have at the moment. So in terms of an attraction strategy, it was always a part of an attraction strategy, but now it's a mega attraction strategy. It's also a mega retention strategy, because the thought of leaving this place and going to work in a smaller office, not just small, but maybe a company that doesn't invest in the office space as much as we do. So we've kind of like what looked like a double loss, I think, and I hope, and I am touching wood, will end up being a double win for us.
A final interruption to today's episode to introduce Vincere. Vincere is the all-in-one CRM ATS platform built for the recruitment and staffing industry. Now, I first heard about these guys about a year ago. The amount of prospect recruitment agencies and clients I was working with that were telling me they were moving over to Vincere, I had to look into it. And what I found was a business that had a global reach with multiple offices around the world. So they've got this follow the sun methodology, which allows them to support recruitment businesses wherever you are and be in your time zone. But the technology that they've invested in is becoming a disruptor in the space. More and more recruitment businesses are doing this to give their recruiters a competitive advantage. They broke into the G2 Crowd's momentum grid as a market leader based on their reviews from their customers. So the agencies that are using this platform are raving about it. Now, if you're a RAG listener and you're thinking about changing CRM, or you're a new business looking to launch with a new CRM, then I would get in touch with these guys, because if you mention that you're a RAG listener, they're doing an amazing deal. By visiting www.vincere.io/RAG, you can get an exclusive deal which offers 2 months completely free on a 2-year commitment, or 3 months completely free on a 3-year commitment. This applies to all licenses that you've either signed up for now or that you'll add in the duration of the contract. So get on there and have a look. Finally, if you're listening and you're a recruiter and you're thinking, I want to move into a more of a business development role, and I'd like to keep hold of my recruitment knowledge. Well, these guys are recruiting for a BD person, multiple roles in both Sydney and London right now. So if you've got a strong recruitment background, you want to move into BD and you want to work for a fast moving tech business that's helping people like you right now, then get in touch via their website, because they're hiring today. Back to the show. So how will you do it? Have you got is 70 people, is there enough space for them all to be socially distanced in there?
So yes and no. We've got, so what we've done is, so the senior consultants that are, autonomous by nature in what they do, they've been working from home, or they may already work from home, and that be the deal they've got with us as a principal consultant. So we've kind of managed to shift out maybe 10 or 15 people in that sense, which has allowed us to literally go 1 and 2 diagonals. It's meant that we didn't have to put screens up. We've obviously removed seats and desks. Well, not desks, but seats. And in this area here, we've taken like some of the seats out and stuff like that. So we can pretty much have a full complement in here working comfortably in each other's, in teams, but not sat on top of each other.
Yeah, I love it. It does. I mean, I've only seen on video from you, but it looks awesome, and it's I can see why, especially like. I think I said this before we started the show. I said it in June last year, and I say it again. I think there's going to be two camps of people. That there's going to be, well, there'll potentially be three. There'll be the people that just want to be 5 days a week, the people that don't want to go, and the people that are on the blended model. But I actually think the blended model is leading towards the same as the office, because if you want to go in a couple of days, you want to have an office to go to, or some form of office. Like my business, we've adopted, or we're going to adopt when the lockdown ends, a global WeWork strategy, because we've got people now in the US, in South Africa, in Australia, in the UK. It's unrealistic to have one office, and even in the UK, I'm now in Manchester. We've got a team in Birmingham, London. So WeWork allows us to have the same type of environment, on a global scale, and then we can all meet in London for a day, and we don't have to worry about whether or not we've got space. So I'm so fucking excited for that.
Yeah,
I'm totally ready for that now. It's becoming. What? How are you keeping the morale with your team as we're in this third lockdown? How are you keeping people feeling okay? Because it's a lot harder this time, I think, mentally than it was before.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally finding it harder this time. And I've told the team so. I think something that I personally learned in lockdown 1 is that there's, being vulnerable personally. And, if we're concerned that the business is how we're going to get through this month, then, tell the business, this is how I feel. This is what we all feel like, is that we're struggling, we're up against it. And, this is what we need. I think this is what we need to do to get out of it. And so the rallying kind of that got us through the first lockdown was fine, and then obviously the excitement starting to build to get back into this office. We kind of got through that, I think, quite well. Second one was November. Obviously, it was a 4-week job, wasn't it? So it actually wasn't for us, because up in Leeds we always remained in a higher tier, but there was a start and end date, and then obviously we actually brought everyone back into the office on the 4th of Jan, and then obviously went all home again on the same day. So, but yeah, it is harder. I mean, we as a business are a really so something that COVID has done for us is really made us realign on our values as a business and who we want to be, and the type of business that we want to be, and the way we want to work, and the people we want working for us, and that runs right through the business. So firstly, we all want to work. I think I hope someone's not watching this thinking, well, I don't want to, but I hope that everyone wants to be here and wants to work here, and there's like a real kind of togetherness about the business that hopefully has happened in a lot of companies in times of crisis.
Yeah.
As a business, we have a real focus on mental health. We're really reactive, and something that we've been really good at, and part of our retention and attraction strategy is we listen to what the team want. And it was on a survey that we did maybe 2 or 3 years ago that actually well-being, mental well-being, and emotional well-being ranked higher than commission on a survey we did, like for Great Place to Work or something. It came in number 1. Yeah. And we were like, wow, never expected that. And it's obviously the whole topic's picked up a lot of pace over the last few years. Yeah. So we've invested in it, and in the same way we invested in LinkedIn, the same way we invested in marketing, is the same way we invested in mental health. And we hired an external practitioner. We paid. One of our big initiatives was that we would say that we paid for up to 6 private sessions with a mental health practitioner, thinking that no one would go for it, and a lot did. I won't necessarily share numbers, but a lot in the business did. And wow, it was like, wow, what an eye opener that has been. And it cost the business quite a lot of money, but the reality is that there was issues in the business. There was a lot of potential mental health issues or emotional, but little things that you wouldn't normally talk about that were now getting talked about. Yeah, that now means you're probably going to stay working for us rather than leave us because it was getting too much for you. So we had a real big push on mental health. We've had the practitioner that we've been working with has been running wellbeing workshops and stuff like that, and just kind of helping people. And there's an open 24/7 hotline that anyone can call. So we've done what we needed to do. I think now the sense I'm getting is that everyone's getting really fed up and wanting to just kind of get back in the office. And no one wanted that more than me. So like you said, there was 2 camps that you were talking about earlier. I think the majority of our camp is in, we want to get back into the office. We want to see each other and work with each other again. And obviously, we've got the space for them to do that as well. So, but, we've done a lot of coaching on with managers over the last couple of years on looking out for signs of, emotional well-being and if there's any stress or anxiety, and talking about it and dealing with it and stuff like that. So we're really I think as well equipped as we can be for the situation.
Yeah. What's still driving you, Andy? I mean, you've got a £10 million business revenue wise. You've got 70 people. You've been doing this now for 15 years. You've got 3 kids. Why are you still so ambitious? Like, why do you want to get to 100? Why are you so excited about this office? Like, what is driving that?
Good question. I firstly, I still really, really love coming to work. I love the company. I love the fact that we're really value based and value driven. Like we always had values, but now we absolutely live and breathe and live and die by the values of the business. We see this way that we're working in this content led. And I know this is one of the main topics we're talking. We can see this really going somewhere, and really kind of revolutionizing, not just not just what we're doing today, but actually, starting something for the industry, not because of us, but just we feel like we're on that track. We as a business, we're kind of very much infinite minded rather than finite. We're here to make an impression. We're here to keep going and to kind of really, build strong relationships and to kind of embed ourselves in the community. And, it's just exciting. I'm just still really excited. I love kind of, not necessarily building a team, but building the culture in the team.
What does a day look like for you? Because you got
it's hard.
So, what's a normal day like?
It's really hard. That was my biggest issue. That was probably my biggest stressor in April, May last year, was that when actually everyone went home, and I hope a lot of other leaders who non-billion leaders were thinking like this as well. But it's what do I do? Everyone's furloughed, half the company's furloughed, or the proportion who couldn't work from home were those who weren't were just totally focused on writing fees and wanting to get out of this. And I was like, what am I doing? Who am I speaking to? I feel like I'm hassling people, calling up and stuff like that, and just kind of checking in on people. My role has been changed from kind of being a very, very hands-on man manager and actually knowing everyone in the business and almost seeing an issue or hearing something, or I'd maybe hear somebody on the phone and go over and help, because the office was small enough and that sort of kind of environment we had, to now there's people who sit behind me and I sit on the other side, and I might go a week without even seeing them properly, and other than just a bit of casual chat. So my role nowadays is all about just making this place obviously this office took up a lot of my time when it was doing it. When we're doing that, we've hired a head of people, someone who's going to really take over the culture and drive that. So working with her quite a lot. We're talking about kind of where we want to go and what we want to achieve. One of the big things that came from COVID is we managed to hire someone who has come from a contract background. That's a big thing for us, and kind of trying to attract talent for that. But it is tough. And I think you get to a point when the company gets to this sort of size where it's my roles changed so much. The directors below me are managing their teams, and you're trying to give them the autonomy to do that without interfering too much. So I'm as a candidly speaking, I'm in a position where I'm kind of trying to find exactly where my place is and how much I can impact the business. I do a lot of communication to the team, and I have done throughout lockdown, which has built up a lot of my confidence, getting on camera and filming myself doing a wrap up, a monthly wrap up and stuff like that. So just I suppose keeping everyone engaged in the business, and that's probably partly why we have grown and we have been able to grow, is that I'd like to think at any one point, if anyone is thinking I'm not enjoying my job, I know about it and I'm working on it with them. Everyone knows what their short midterm goals are because we've talked about it, and we're setting out a plan for them. And that plan ultimately is probably me stepping aside at some point, or me and one of the other directors stepping aside, because that's what we might have to do to encourage the directors to keep developing.
Yeah. You're not the bottleneck. The thing I like about you is you're not the bottleneck. You're not holding anything up. Everyone
I'm
else
moving. Yeah, I'm literally moving to my own. It's not my sacrifice, because it's not my. The benefit of the business is my gain, But I personally feel like I'm moving aside to let someone else take that job that I used to love doing, because it's going to engage them. And it's the best thing for me to do is just to kind of give that responsibility to do that. So I'm constantly trying to reinvent my role to allow others to take, the tasks that, to be fair, like I don't need to be doing anymore, and they want to do it. So that's the hard thing. And that's been made even harder being based at home, because being in the office and kind of walking around and catching people and spotting issues and then figuring out a solution, and obviously a lot of meetings, and it kind of makes you feel like you're really busy, when really when you're at home and everyone's working hard, and I'm having to like call someone to see if they're okay, because they don't often come to me with problems. So that's exaggerated what I want to do, and I think what I'm trying to do now, working with Tom Maskell, our director, is like creating the vision for the business, which we do have a vision. And I think if you asked everyone independently what the vision is for the business, we'd all say something similar. But figuring out the vision for the business, and then kind of like, getting everybody on board with that, and almost taking more of a chief vision officer type role of like getting everyone bought into what we're doing and really driving for that as a business, rather than doing the, more of the day-to-day tasks.
I love it. And I think there's so many other people listening that are looking up to you now and thinking I'm thinking the same thing, right? I think in Hoxo a lot of the time I'm the bottleneck. A lot of the I started it with my business partner off of my own ideas, and so now we've got 24 people and clients around the world. I'm starting to step away from a lot of things I had to do, and it's incredible, really. And I'm learning from you in these conversations. Where do you get your learning from? Do you have someone is a mentor to you? Or?
I didn't until last year, and I do have a mentor now, and someone I talk to, and it's really, really, really opened my eyes out to a lot, and it's just totally changed the way I think about business. And when we went into lockdown, I was scrambling around again, like most others, scrambling around thinking like, how can I add value? Like everyone's writing fees or trying to write fees except me and maybe one or two others. Like I need to write fees because that's the only way out of this. And obviously that wasn't the way out of it. The way out of it was to support others to do their job. It's not my job to write fees anymore. I haven't done it for 8 years. So it's just not my job anyway. So it's to give the support to the people to make sure that they are able to do that. And rather than focusing on, oh shit, what if we only hit this number this month? We're going to lose money. So what? Like focus on the process, make sure the process is quality, make sure nothing drops out needlessly, make sure, we're building strong relationships. And if we write a fraction of what we're supposed to, what we would normally write, then that's what it'll be. Like that is actually genuinely what I can't change that.
No.
So we kind of really stopped. I, at that point, took away the overall company target, and I still haven't reintroduced that. I don't know what our company target is. The divisions have, and the person has. I'm sure the individual knows what they're working towards, but I don't know if this is a good period or a bad in terms of have we hit target or not. What I know is that the number we hit at the end of the month is the best it could be, and kind of driving it that way and really focusing on achieving the best we can.
And you said you had a record. Was it a record quarter in Q4?
We had a record Q4 last year, so November was our biggest ever month by by some distance, by a couple of $100,000. And then December, which is traditionally a slower period for us, was our second biggest month ever.
Wow.
So we finished the year on an absolute massive high. And that was, I'm not saying that was because we changed the way we looked at it, but we're focusing on process, we're focusing on input, we're focusing on doing everything right. And ultimately, we are getting results from it. But yes, I do have a mentor, and he has really helped me with that. I've literally, another win from COVID is that I'm reading books because I want to kind of like figure out where I'm going and where we're going as a business. And I'm like reading 2 books a month at the moment, or listening on Audible. A lot of like, not just business books as in like how to, but, stories about startups, stories about, successful businesses and successful leaders, and just trying to kind of like pull, good stuff from that. And I've just finished The Infinite Leader by Simon Sinek, which is why, we were talking, I mentioned Infinite earlier, because it is very much in the way we want to work, is that, we're not looking to win. We're not looking to say that we're the best company ever. We're not. But our vision is to be embedded in our markets, is to have amazing relationships, is to collaborate with our clients, it's to kind of add a lot more value than just being a recruitment partner. And that's the way that we're going as a business. So, and also the intimidating thing is that like the way we're going in the business at the moment is not, it's Chris is driving a lot of this marketing stuff. It's not my forte. I've never had amazing engagement from content that I've written. I actually don't know where my voice is. I struggle with my voice a little bit I see everybody in the business has got this voice where they're driving engagement and they're creating discussions and they're getting on video and being really brave with it. And I'm probably the one in the business who's like, I don't know what to write. I don't know who my audience is. I don't know like what I'm getting from this. So actually the business is almost like overtaking.
Maybe you don't need
me.
You're providing the platform for that to happen. You got to remember, you've created that vehicle that most companies I look at have someone at the top like me who's shouting from the rooftops from the start. And if that's how you start the business, like for me, when I see Hoxo getting bigger, my role will get less and less and less about the detail, but my voice will stay in the market. I've got that plan.
Yeah.
But I will also bring through the voices of the people below. Whereas you never needed to have that. You just started with the people who started the voices were the employees. So it would be it's a strange way around now for you to suddenly start jumping on top. I would have a different type of strategy if I was you.
Yeah. And I kind of know where I need to go with it. But it's getting the courage to do it. Like, I was nervous about coming on and doing this today. Because I've not been brought up in a recruitment world where I'm jumping on camera to let everyone know what I've done this week or what's been going on. Whereas obviously the consultants are doing that. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just kind of it's just kind of figuring out. I feel like there's a big win for me to be more engaged, and not necessarily engaged, but more vocal in some way, and that's what I just need to be kind of like brave enough to go and get.
You will. And I'm happy to help if you ever need any advice on it.
Definitely.
Andy, I just want to say thanks. You've been, you're incredibly humble for someone who's done so much. For the age you are, the team you've built, the numbers you've wrote, the culture you've got, the office you've got. I mean, it's just, I think anyone who's not seen it, go and look at Charlton Morris' website. I mean, you'll be pretty impressed. It's completely different to 99% of recruitment websites I've seen. It doesn't even feel like a recruitment, it is literally like a news.
Yeah, and that was a remit. That was the remit. We wanted to go for an editorial website.
Yeah.
And then Digital, based in Manchester, totally delivered that for us. And we didn't use our old website, even though we had a load of jobs on there that were out of date. We didn't use it. So now we have a place where a lot of our LinkedIn engagement is now actually happening in our own space that we can actually track and monitor and take advantage of. So I know we haven't got into that, have we?
No. But look, Andy, absolute pleasure, mate. And if anyone's listening and thinks, you know what, I need to reach out and have a quick chat with that guy, are you open to a quick conversation with the recruiters?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course. No
is LinkedIn the best place to get you? That's how I got hold of you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So DM on LinkedIn to Andy, and that will be welcome. And guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the RAG podcast. Coming every Wednesday live on LinkedIn at 1:30, then released the following morning, Thursday mornings, on the podcast live store. As you know, I'm bringing you stories this year of businesses that are doing great things, modern, innovative things. We're not necessarily obsessing with the past and how businesses used to scale. I'm thinking about the future and, LinkedIn, websites, content, marketing, technology. There's so many things to talk about that the best businesses like yours, Andy, are doing really, really well. So, if you know someone who will benefit from listening to Andy's message, please get out and share it. Drop them a message. Put it on your LinkedIn. Make sure there's more people listening, because together we can all compete at a desk level, but together the ideas will make the industry stronger. That's what I'm excited about. Finally, those of you that have not seen my LinkedIn in the last week may not know that I am running a program called Project 500 right now, which is in response to the horrific news that over 1.4 million children in the UK right now do not have access to a laptop or a device when they're homeschooling. Me and two of my customers, Red Holt, CEO, managing partner, Chris Redmond, and the CEO of Simply Commerce, Tim Rodell, got together and said, you know what, we need to do something about this. So we've got a technology supplier who is, for £160, we're able to get a brand new Asus laptop with Windows 10 and Google Classroom sent to a school, which will be distributed to a child that doesn't have access. We've raised in the first week, less than a week, we launched last Friday, it's now Wednesday, we've raised £27,000, which is incredible. So we've worked that out. 6 laptops are £1,000 times that. So we're 150 laptops or so at the moment, which is just amazing. But we want to get to 500. So we need to get £80,000 raised. So if you guys listening can please spare, even if it's enough to buy one laptop, if you're a recruitment owner, recruiter, is it really going to affect you to share 150, 160 quid or even £1,000? But it's going to change the lives of the future talent that we all so desperately will rely on. If you need to, go to Project 500 at hoxomedia.com to find out more, and you can just donate on that page. I will be live on Friday on LinkedIn on Hoxo Media's page at 11 a.m. I'm an ex-school teacher, and the deputy head of the school I used to work at in Sheffield is joining me on the RAG on Friday, and we're going to talk about, he's probably going to tell you some stories about me as a teacher when I had a little bit of grey hair, not as bad as it is now. But we're also going to find out about the reality of what it's like working in these conditions in schools and how your donations are going to impact the children in that area specifically. So join us Friday, and we're back again Wednesday with another recruitment owner for more of the RAG podcast. In the meantime, you stay safe, and I'll see you soon.